Hi everyone, Miss Bat here once again with our class text. Do you remember what the title was? That's right, it is Riddle of the Rings. I hope you are enjoying it. I'd like you to pause the video and tell anyone that would listen what's happened so far. Well done. Let's continue. Remember though, what are we looking for? That's right, we're looking for the runes and they are where they normally are. Where? Can't hear you, a bit louder. That's right in the middle of the mountain. So I hope you noted it down. Today's chapter is called Shine a Light. Alva was tired, deep down exhausted. She sat huddled against one of the walls of the hall as the men talked on and on. Why did Viking men have to turn every speech into boast or saga? Fenrir had curled up by her legs and was keeping her feet warm with his thick fur. Her mind wandered as she listened to the endless oaths and arguments. This was ridiculous. They had the first location from the casket and could go there right away. All this talk and bluster was just delaying them. Feeling Fenrir's gentle breath against her legs, Alva remembered how she had found him when she herself was only a girl. She had been running through the woods with a group of friends. Night was creeping in and the others wanted to go back to their homes. But Alva wanted to do more adventure before bed. As darkness fell around them, the sound of howls came from nearby. Her friends ran immediately, full of fear. Their parents had poured into their ears about wolves baying for blood. But Alva wasn't scared. She walked forward. She walked towards the sound, not away from it. Beneath a huge pine tree, she saw a single wolf lying on its side. As she moved closer, the creature did not stir, yet a small meowing sound was coming from it. She came nearer and saw that the beast's leg was caught in a trap. The people of Kilsgard set up ropes and pulleys round the woods to trap deer for food. But this wolf had become tangled up some time ago. The wound around its leg was cold and clotted. Still, the beast didn't stir. It was dead. And as she turned to leave, she saw a small movement beneath the belly of the wolf. A tiny cub, still blind, was squealing up at her. It was madness to approach. All around her, the sound of howling was getting closer, and any second now she could be attacked and bitten by razor-sharp canine teeth. But Alva felt so deeply for the sorry, pale, wriggling cub crying out for food and love. She couldn't leave it to die. So quickly, she picked it up and tucked it inside her cloak and ran back home. How do you think her parents are going to feel if she walked home with a wolf? How would your parents feel if you came home with a fluffy animal who could kill your entire family? Very good. Well done. Let's continue. It felt like the wild tree itself shook at the fury of her mother when she returned. A wild beast, she ranted. It will bring the threat of the outdoors here within the sanctuary of our home. It will never be yours, Alva. It is from the forest and it could kill any of us with a single snap of its jaw. But Alva's father remained quiet while her mother shouted to take the cub outside and leave it to the elements. Eventually, he stood up and took the tiny thing up in his hands, holding it to the light. One of the sons of Loki, Fenrir, is a wolf. A wolf can be a god, and if our little shield maiden can tame a wolf, will that not make her a god? He forbade Brianna from hurting the cub and brought over a bowl of milk. Placing on Alva's lap, he showed her how to use her finger to bring the feed to the starving baby wolf Pink's mouth. It lapped the milk up greedily, and she sat there, cradling the cub. Her father said, "This wolf will protect you. He will be your guardian when I'm not here. He will need to be fierce and strong when he grows up. He will need to be like Fenrir himself, the god wolf. Name him Fenrir." And now Fenrir sat by her side. Alva could feel his chest steadily rising and falling as he slept. She loved him so much, and she shed so many tears into his fur, thinking about where her father might be. Her breathing joined his as she felt herself slipping towards sleep. A noise of a copper cup rattling against the door dragged Alva quickly back to waking. She didn't know who had thrown it. But several of the men were now standing and shouting, while her uncle was swinging his cloak dramatically over his shoulder. "If you want to chase runes, so be it," one Carl was yelling at Magnus. "We are warriors and we will act like warriors. We will take a band of men, all the fighting men of the town, up into the mountains before sunrise. We'll go door to door, gathering every able man of Kilsgard, and we will scour the land until we weed out this stranger and find the Englishman. Then we will find the treasure." "You will ruin this," Magnus replied fiercely. "If you set a horde of angry men on the mountains, the criminal will make himself invisible. I think he knows the mountains well, and when he hears you all clattering, shouting, and wavering around torches, he will bed down and we will never find him. We will lose the advantage we have. Right now, we have a good idea where he is heading, and that is where we should go." "You go, fool," came a shout out from the benches. "You go and chase your symbols while we chase the criminal." "I will," Magnus answered, swinging his cloak behind him and pulling Alva to his feet. "Come on," he whispered. "There's no convincing men against their will, and these have iron for hearts." The bite of the cold night engulfed them as they left Megan's last warmth. "If they are to spread the loud, livid rash across the mountain before dawn," said her uncle, "we have..." It's not working. Sorry. "We have to follow our own clues as soon as possible to try to find the answers to the riddle first." "We don't have all the runes," Alva replied, wide awake now in the frozen air. "But we have a very clear direction for the first location. The lid of the casket was a private message from your father to us, and we can follow his guidance. The difficulty is, because the runes include you, me, and your mother, I think she might be the only person who knows one of the destinations." They looked at each other for a moment. They had many problems to solve before sunrise, but persuading her stubborn mother to join them on the slopes of Giant Finger in the dead of the night was going to take all the wisdom of Odin. Their hut was silent as they approached. The last few revelers had finally crawled to their beds and the streets were empty. The sleeping residents of Kilsgard did not yet know that the car would be beating on their doors in the dark side of dawn, waking their children, terrifying their households, and demanding the men take up arms. Inside the hut, it was still dark. The fire gave off a little light, and Alva could see Brianna cuddling Ivan at the far end. "We need to wake her," Magnus said. He had a genuine look of fear in his eyes that she had hardly ever seen. "I'll do it," Alva replied, feeling determined. They had to solve the riddle from her father, and she crawled close to her sleeping mother. Brianna's red hair seemed to glow and lay around her head like a fiery crown. She looked how Alva imagined the elf folk, ageless, luminous, and mysterious. But as Alva shook her gently by the shoulder, Brianna opened her piercing green eyes and at once was transformed into a formidable woman. Alva was used to. "Why have you woken me?" she asked quietly, brushing her hair back with long white hands. "Mother," Alva said, whispering so as not to wake Ivan, "Uncle and I need to speak with you at once." A look of anticipation crept across her mother's face as she gently placed Ivan flat on the mattress and stood up. Magnus was already sat at the table, pouring himself a cup of ale from a jug. 2 more full cups were already there, waiting for them. Alva and Brianna sat next to Magnus on the bench. "It's been a long night," he said. We have all been awake for too long, and many in Kilsgard are ragged and tired, with ragged retiredness. Their minds are not clear, and the Jarl himself is following poor guidance from drunk, exhausted men. We want to find the stranger who took the Englishman before sunrise. They will wake the houses and launch a search across the mountain. It will be clumsy and foolish, since anyone hiding on the mountain will hear them and hide deeper." "Mother," Alva said, "you know that between us we have the answers to the mystery. Father sent us a set of directions. He wanted us 3 and only us 3 to understand the instructions of the casket. The lid referred to each of us by name. It must have been his strategy that those closest to him would be needed if the treasure was to be found, and that only by working together, supporting each other, would we be able to solve the riddle. We know where my lake is, and I think this will lead us on to further locations that only we know of. We need you." Brianna took a slow sip from her cup and stood up facing the fire. In this light, she looked like one of the gods, ready to determine the fates of men with one wave of her hand. They sat quietly, waiting for her to speak. Eventually, she turned to them. I have watched tonight as you two take the trials of the whole town on your shoulders, plunging yourselves into danger without a thought for our family. Alva shifted guiltily on the wooden bench, aware that she had been deceiving her mother throughout the past day. You've returned her, taken what you needed, and gone away again. You have left me and Ivan behind without a thought for what would happen to us or how we would feel if your adventures brought you to a bitter end. I understand what drives you. We are all fueled with fire and desire for adventure, and your father, Alva, had it searing through his blood. But that need must be tempered by an understanding of blood ties and the bonds that bind us. So I'm going to stop here. What do you think Brianna is going to say? Do you think Brianna will help them to solve the mystery? Or will she stay back with Ivan? I'd like you to think about and write down, what do you think Brianna is going to do? Will she or won't she? And I'll see you next on the class text. Keep safe and be well, and remember to be kind to others. Goodbye.